So I always believe that we need to focus on the quality of the time that we spend and the experiences that we share as against the quantity. I cannot spend 10 hours a day with my children.
You see other parents doing so much for their kids, and you yourself sometimes feel like, am I not doing it right, or am I missing out on something?
So over the years, I have just told myself that I am what they have. We'll figure out our own thing, and you don't have to ace a lot of things by the time you're 16 or 17.
But kahin na kahin mom guilt to hota hai. Do you feel that as well sometimes?
Definitely hota hai, confusion hota hai, guilt hota hai. The day I went to Ukraine was my daughter's birthday. Those are the times when you feel bad that you're not there. But long ago, I learned to tell myself that it's important to do the things that are very important to you. And over a period of time, the people who really love you will learn to appreciate it.
What is that one thing you really miss from your childhood and you wish that I wish my kids had experienced it?
Clean air.
We live in a world that often feels unpredictable and unsafe. Every day we hear stories that remind us how vulnerable we all are, especially our children. And yet, as parents, we keep moving forward, doing everything we can to shield our little ones from the dangers around them, while we still allow them to explore and grow. In today's episode of Motherhood, we talk about something that sits at the core of every parent's heart: our children's safety. As parents, we do everything in our power to protect our kids from negativity, from dangers lurking around us. But today, I'm joined by someone who knows these dangers firsthand. Someone who stands at the crossroads of news, truth, and reality every single day. Palki Sharma Upadhyay is not just a household name. She's a force in Indian journalism. She's a mother, a role model, and a voice of reason in a world full of noise. She's seen the world in its rawest form, through the eyes of a journalist, and continues to tell stories that really matter, stories that keep us informed and prepared. I couldn't think of anyone better to help us navigate the tricky waters of child safety. Hi Palki, welcome to Motherhood. Such a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for having me here and for doing this podcast, which talks about the things that we need to talk about.
I'm so glad that you could join. So yeah, we've seen how busy life has been for you, and we keep seeing it digitally and on TV, and what a hectic life you have, how it's been for you.
It's good. I think I signed up for it. I asked for it. It's
Yeah.
a full life. My hands are full. I cannot complain. Some days are challenging, some are easier, but no regrets.
We have seen, like, currently you're India's one of the top journalists, and people simply love watching you for the reason of how smoothly and simply and with honesty you deliver the news to us. But what we want to know today is the Maate in you. So, हम जानना चाहते हैं कि how is Palki as a mother?
For that, I think you should talk to my kids. But I think I'm a reasonably good mother.
You've got two children.
I've got two children. My daughter is 13. My son is 11 years old. So one is a teenager, one is a preteen. It's a very exciting time to see them grow, because you see a little bit of their personality evolve every day.
Yes.
So it's nice. I think I do the best that I can, and I honestly tell them what I cannot do. So it's good to manage expectations.
And I'm sure you're very good at that.
I hope so.
As a mother, and it is one of the most common questions, like we mothers are constantly asked, and you have a very, very busy life. So how it's been balancing both sides?
I think work-life balance, increasingly both for men and women, is a challenge. It is less of a challenge when your work is something that you enjoy, so it doesn't feel like work. For me, I grew up seeing my mother work, and I saw how beautifully she balanced a lot of things. As a parent, I've had more help than she ever did. I live in a joint family. So I always believe that we need to focus on the quality of the time that we spend and the experiences that we share as against the quantity. I cannot spend 10 hours a day with my children.
Yeah.
I see very little of them on weekdays. But I try to, if I'm not traveling, I try to make sure that I'm there for them through the weekend, that we do some things that they will retain and remember and cherish.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's important.
Yeah. No, very beautifully said. But kahin na kahin mom guilt to hota hai. Do you feel that as well sometimes?
Definitely hota hai, confusion hota hai, guilt hota hai. Every step of the way, and there is so much literature now that's available that talks about from the point you become pregnant to you when you have a baby, you're trying to figure out how to do a whole lot of things, and everyone is giving you advice, and mostly in good faith.
True.
But it can be very overwhelming.
Yes.
And totally. I remember this because I used to read a lot when I was expecting my first child, and I used to talk to my doctor.
Were you still working then?
I was working. I was working till the very end, and I went back to work when my daughter was, I think, 4.5 months old. But in the run-up to that, I used to tell my doctor, well, maybe you should do this. And then one day she snapped and she said, look,
I'm the doctor.
I'm the doctor, and reading the internet and reading 5 books on maternity, it does not make you an expert. Yeah. So it's good to be curious and to try to learn, but listen to the experts. I thought that was very sound advice.
Yeah.
I think we make some mistakes, but we learn along the way.
Absolutely. And we have so much exposure in today's world, right? As you rightly said, so much support, literature, and forums where we can go and seek more help and support. That really helps us, to combine both and balance both. But you're in the middle of a world, I would say middle, because you're constantly reporting on world problems, issues, all the crimes, and, everything which is happening around us. Do you sometimes feel a little hopeless? What is the kind of world we are living in right now?
No, I think I'm excited by how the world changes every day. And that's what I love about my job the most, that no 2 days are similar. No 2 stories are exactly similar.
Yeah.
And there is so much to explore and to learn and to fix. And throughout history, when you see with the advent of technology, the disruptions that happen, the power imbalances, the wars, the conflicts, there is a pattern to things. As different as today feels from maybe 500 years ago, some things have not changed. Human desires, human behavior, human responses.
Yeah.
And to that extent, if you learn history and if you try to see the future, you should look at possibilities. And it is an exciting, I think, for my children, I'm very excited for them. I mean, I could give you a very small example. We did a story yesterday on the book boom in South Korea, because a South Korean has won the Nobel Prize for Literature, so people are suddenly very excited about books. And I was thinking to myself that today they have so much in terms of choices.
Yes.
When I was growing up, there were very limited books for children and even fewer for young adults. And so you had to labor with the classics, and that was also very good. But today, I think, and both my children have very, very distinct tastes in reading. And it shows in the individuals that they are turning into.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
It is. So how 2 children born in the same family, raised by same parents, can turn out to be so different, right? I constantly see that happening in my family as well with my children. Both of them are just so different. If we talk about global crisis, we constantly question as parents, what is the kind of future we are leaving behind for our children? So there's so many issues in terms of, be it climate, environment, health crisis. We have faced a pandemic, all these things. So how do you stay positive around this situation? And also, how do you kind of protect your children from this? That they do not really get, drowned into this whole negativity which is happening around us?
I think children process things differently from the way we do.
Yeah.
As of today, the biggest thing in their lives is what is happening in their school.
Yes.
Right? That is their whole world. My son is interested in sports. He follows a lot of footballers. My daughter is interested in history and literature and all sorts of things. I think we should not, I wouldn't say not worry on their accounts, but I think they'll figure it out like we did.
Yeah.
Right? Um, they have entered the world at a different period where there is flux. They are digital natives. They are growing with technology. They are exposed a lot more than we ever were.
Yeah.
Climate anxiety is something that the young often,
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
big thing. I think my kids are still younger, so they've not sort of.
I think that is something they also constantly talk about at school.
They do.
And sometimes it can be very stressful for them.
But I also feel that a little bit of stress is okay. I think
Yeah.
we stress too much on
Yeah.
the need to de-stress their lives. I think
True.
it's good to grow up with the challenges that are a reality of your world and learn to deal with
Yes.
them. That's how you build strength, emotional strength.
Yeah.
So
And I think our parents also did that. They
yeah.
kind of gave us more authority in terms of dealing with our own emotions. I don't know about you, but what I see that most of us, and we tend to make it so smooth and so done for our children all the time. Like we are making all these extra efforts to make sure that things are just in place for them.
Yeah.
So that is making it even harder, I feel, in a longer run for them.
I think one of the things that I try to do consciously, do not always succeed. I think the best memories of my childhood were the summer holidays and the long afternoons where I had nothing to do.
Yes.
And we had very limited access to TV because my father was not a big fan of television.
And there was hardly anything on TV.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, he was not so. I think that was the most creative period of my life.
Yes.
It forced me to come up with new things to keep myself entertained, and then you have these bursts of creativity. So I've done stories as well. I don't know how many takers they have, but there is we underestimate boredom for children.
Yes.
It's important to let them be sometimes and not create an activity around them. It's important to let them figure out what to do with themselves in their time.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, and kids say all the time, "I'm bored."
Yeah.
Well, then deal with it.
Yeah.
Figure something out. Draw something. I don't know. Look at the sky.
Yeah, some coloring.
Yeah.
Or the outdoors, which is
So
also
I'm
another
not going
challenge.
to create that structure for you. You have to do it for yourself. And if there is no structure, that's fine. Just vegetate.
Yeah.
So I think we overemphasize the need to regulate and to make designer lives for our children. That's not really needed.
No, definitely. As I said, we are constantly on the job. We are kind of exhausting ourselves as parents.
Yeah.
Because it's also a competition in the sense like this pressure, social pressure you have. You see other parents doing so much for their kids, and you yourself sometimes feel like, am I not doing it right? Or am I missing out on something? Do I have to do even a little more for kids? And otherwise, it feels like those children are exposed to so much more. Are my children missing out something? So that is also a pressure I feel we go through sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, maybe. But I think I don't.
You don't fall
I
for
don't
that
take
trap,
that.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
initially I did try. Like with my daughter, she's very talented, even if I say so myself. And I tried very hard to put her in a dance class, music class. And after a while, she's like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I know that some of the people who started with her have now done 8 years of Kathak and are like pros.
Yeah.
But I also feel that she enjoys dancing. So I don't have to restrict her to a regimen.
Yeah.
And she should do it when she wants to. If it's not proper Kathak, I mean, it would have been great had she learned.
Yeah.
But if she's not learned and she wants to do her own thing, that's fine. So over the years, I have just told myself that I am what they have.
Yes.
And we'll figure out our own thing. And you don't have to ace a lot of things by the time you're 16 or 17 or you don't have to tick those boxes. It really doesn't matter in the long run.
Yeah.
What matters is that you're happy, that you're curious, that you're healthy, that you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
And so I let them be unless they really push for something. I mean, I know of a lot of parents and kudos to them if they're being able to pack all of it in their schedules.
Yeah.
I can't, and I don't want to kill myself. And I don't want to burden them with a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
So I
think it's a very good message, especially for the first time moms, because that is where you start getting the whole thing. Like it's really getting heavy on you. And I
Yeah.
think it's very important for them to understand it's okay to take it easy sometimes.
Yes, I think we try to build the life for our children sometimes that we hope that we had.
True.
And we, after a certain point, live vicariously through them, and we want them to have everything. But that's not, life has its own plans.
True. And changing so
Yeah.
fast, I feel. As you said, you're really excited for the future for your children.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know, because you most of the times have very ground level insights about everything what is happening in the world, right? Next 20 years, what are the biggest challenges you think our children might face?
The biggest challenges. I think climate is a concern, definitely.
Yeah.
I think technology is disrupting lives at a very fast pace. The children are at home because they are digital natives. We are the ones who are very anxious because we are trying to play catch up all the time.
Yeah.
I think when I was growing up, career choices were limited, and that made it easier for people to at least start somewhere. But today, it's impossible to really advise a young person on what they should do.
Yeah.
In terms of higher education, in terms of what they pick, because with many possibilities also comes confusion, and sometimes I think as parents we are not equipped to give the right advice. I know that there are lots of counselors now and so on. So I think the world is expanding and at the same time contracting in terms of what can be achieved. Everything seems within your grasp.
Yes.
And the future of work is changing. So I don't know what that's going to bring. I don't think anyone's sort of figured out what a typical ideal career 15 years from now will be.
Yes.
So I think that's something that is a process that we'll have to go with.
How children see and perceive things in today's world is completely different than how we saw it.
Yeah.
What is that one thing you really miss from your childhood and you wish that I wish my kids had experienced it?
My childhood. Clean air. No, really.
It is a massive issue, yes.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think, we had...
with it brings a lot of freedom as well, because they could just be out and
we could grow
play outdoors.
We could grow our plants. I mean, we had a little garden. I know a lot of kids still do, but in cities, it's increasingly difficult. I remember when I was in school, I used to grow some of my vegetables, and it was a very good feeling. I wish my kids had that. We had cows. I mean, in my great grandfather's house, and I've spent time looking at that aspect of life too. For my children, it's just this exotic idea that they will probably never see. So I
the
think
most
some
basic
those,
things
yes,
they're not exposed
some
to.
very basic things. Language, though I try to. I mean, they're so exposed to English.
They are.
Right? And
it has become very normal in households. So.
Yeah, we are a Hindi-speaking family.
Yeah.
I'm from Rajasthan, so I want them to learn my language, but I'm increasingly losing hope.
I come from UP, and in UP they speak a very different language, right? They call it Tate. And I speak it very fluently.
I see.
But I never speak it at home with my husband or my kids. I'll only speak it when I'm with my grandparents, for example. So for my daughter, when she saw me speaking, she would literally looking at like, who are you?
Yeah, I know.
I've never seen you speaking this before. And for them, it's a very different... I think they have a very different perception of us in today's world compared to what our parents and grandparents have.
But so I speak if I'm very agitated, if I'm very upset about something, or if I'm very happy, I launch into my mother tongue. Yeah. And my kids are, I can see them rolling their eyes, and I can see them sort of, but it's okay.
Do kids watch your show, your news channel, and when you're delivering the news? Are they fond of it?
Not every day, but they do watch some stories, because I very consciously try to do content that attracts Gen Z and Gen Alpha if possible. I do meet a lot of parents who say that my 10-year-old is watching your show.
Yeah.
Which is great, because they are consuming content. They might as well consume something that is coming with a lot of research and
Yes,
So
useful.
yeah, sometimes they do. Um, some of the stories that they find interesting or exciting, some explainers. We are a family of journalists, so they do hear a lot of terms being, thrown around,
Yeah.
discussed. So they
Yeah.
ask questions. So yes, they are increasingly interested in
Do you get
geopolitics.
compliments from them sometimes? Or most of the times?
Very rarely. I usually get when I'm trying to tell them something, they're like, "Your show is over, no life gyan." So please save it for what you do in office.
As they say, I think for a mom, facing the world is a lot easier than facing the children,
Yes,
especially the ones who are now in teenage.
they keep you grounded. It's
Yeah.
it's a great reality check all the time.
Yeah. So, what are the latest Gen Z and Gen Alpha trends which are happening and you think are really affecting our kids?
They're changing language
Hmm.
for sure, and I
Hmm.
learn new words from them all the time. And if I repeat some of them, I think they'll just give me a lot of grief when they see this podcast. But no, they are, and we've done stories on this. Gen Alpha is like they say things are sus and someone's being extra or mid, or
Yeah.
you've seen those words
Yes,
being used. So I try to. Some of my colleagues are also young, and they try to in the stories that we write use the language. So once we said, what is it called? Delulu is the only Sululu. Have you heard that? And I got so many reactions for that. So yeah, they're changing language. They are
There's so much we can learn from them now.
yes, absolutely, and
It's
they
insane.
and they
Yeah.
know how to work. I mean, we're still. I'm still learning how to share my screen on a Zoom call, but they can.
Oh,
They have
yes.
aced technology.
Technologically, they're so much advanced now, I feel. I have seen the shift. In our times, I think most of us were very inclined towards the Western world, wanting to travel to the Western countries and study there and work there. But now I see this entire shift towards the Eastern countries. So kids are more willing to go to Eastern countries, Japan, Korea. They're more inclined towards that, and the K-pop and everything that is happening. What do you think is causing this? What could be the reason behind that?
K-pop is a completely different beast. They've really aced that game, and they've made it one of their biggest exports. So I think that is the cultural appeal that K-pop has. Um, my kids haven't sort of reached that stage where they're thinking about higher education in a particular country, though they sometimes do tell me that if you pick a fight or if you criticize every country, then where will we end up? I said, you can study here. We are a big country. We have lots of colleges.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens. But I think this cultural exposure that the children of today are getting is something that has to be handled more carefully by us as parents.
Yes.
It is great to know about cultures and values of the whole world. At the same time, it's very important to be strongly rooted in yours.
True. And that has become a big struggle in today's world.
Yes. So 31st is Diwali.
Yeah.
31st is also Halloween.
Halloween.
It's fine to be celebrating Halloween, but it's equally important to know that we have Lakshmi Puja on Diwali. We make a rangoli. We make kheer on Sharad Purnima. Those things. Those are things that stay with you. When they go to college, they'll probably not do half those things because other priorities take over. But as they advance in life, that nucleus remains. That is what we call, the sanskar. So the sanskar has to be very strong.
True.
And I think for our generation of parents, it's very important to instill that in children. That is not to say that you don't give them the exposure and the experience of what the rest of the world offers. It's
True.
It's absolutely fine, but you can only grow higher in life when your roots are deep.
True. So, and your foundation is strong.
Yes. So those roots have to be influenced by what we are as individuals, as a society, what our culture is.
Do you think it's weakening?
I think sometimes we don't take it seriously enough. We think it's not some conspiracy.
Yeah.
I hope it's not. It's just that we are too laid back to really see how it is impacting.
And we're trying to catch up with the world constantly. I think that is another
Yeah, so we don't.
reason that.
I think it's important to engage with children and talk to them about
Mm.
things that are important. It's important uh, to read Panchatantra to them as well while you read other books.
Hmm.
Right? Manga comics are great.
Yeah.
What do they read these days? Geronimo Stilton and Harry Potter, very
Yeah.
good books. But we have our own too. So it has to be complete.
Yes. Yes.
That
True.
is how they will learn to compare and to also appreciate what is theirs.
True. True. My children, both of them went to this play school here in Delhi, one of the best play schools in Delhi. They follow the Montessori curriculum. The principal there, she's always emphasized to start speaking only in Hindi with your children. And she always said कि don't send your kids here with the expectations कि उनको English ही बोलना आना चाहिए तभी यहाँ admission मिलेगा. We want kids to have their first language as Hindi.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important because English they will pick up down the line. And they will learn at school as well. But this base language, their mother tongue has to be very solid.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of, I would say, ecosystem is also very, very important to form around our kids, not just at home, but also at schools.
Yeah.
And any other institution they are, exposed to.
Yeah, I think it is important to be proud of your language. But it's okay. I mean, you can learn as many languages as you want to, as long as you also understand yours.
Yes, yes.
That's
totally true.
So I keep adding this rider because we don't have to be exclusionist. But like I said, we need to know what is ours.
True.
Where
True.
we come from, we need to understand.
Appreciate it.
Yes. And then we will know what works elsewhere and what doesn't.
We all came out of this massive pandemic, COVID, and as parents, we were constantly worried and trying to protect our children. But you, on the other hand, was working through and through. How it's been for you and how did it affect you emotionally? Because every day you were coming back home to your kids.
It was very tough. It was because I felt that I was putting them in harm's way. Everyone else was working from home. I could have, but I didn't because there were people in my team who were coming to work. So it would have been unfair to call some of them. And so we took the precautions that we had to take.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, my daughter was the first one to get COVID. And yes,
how old was she?
She was, this is 2020, yeah. So 4 years back. 9. Yeah. And she was, and this around the same time, just before Diwali.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult time because none of us knew what's coming next.
Yeah.
What this means, how long will this go on?
Yes.
We tried to make everything an activity and a new thing with the online classes that started, and kids were at home. It was a different world, but at the same time, as a professional, it was every day, especially in the second wave, which was very bad here in India.
Terrible.
You were waking up every day and people were I dreaded picking up my phone because somebody would ask for help. And as much as I want to help,
you feel
hospitals are full of people. How many times are you going to call someone to ask for a favor and say, this person needs to? It's not. That's not how it works. And it's always one person's life being prioritized over another. So it was it was mentally very, very
draining.
Yes, and tough and emotionally. And then you had to keep your balance because you also had to tell your children that it's okay. Although I think in my case, it's the children who gave me so much hope, and with their smiles and their activities and their children are children. They'll keep dancing. They'll turn everything into a game.
True.
So that helped. I hope we don't have to see something.
No, absolutely. And I think as an after effect, we of course moved to online classes, and the digital exposure of children has really increased.
Yeah.
What I have experienced as a mother. how do you see affecting your lives, and how are you able to tackle it, and how are you setting those boundaries for your children?
So I'm technologically very challenged. I struggle with tech. And so for me to be able to monitor my kids is impossible because they'll always beat me.
Yeah.
They win.
Yeah.
They help me sort out a lot of things. I think that that what COVID did was accelerate a change that was anyway coming. That transformation would have come. The pandemic just made it that much faster. And I've done a lot of stories on this as well, on what technology means for this generation. It cannot be wished away.
No.
It is going to be there.
Yeah.
So I think instead of trying to exclude children with banning things or keeping them out of some places, it's best to educate them.
Yes.
And we've had difficult conversations. Our parents had difficult conversations with their children. The previous generations did on drug abuse, on smoking, on drinking, on driving, which is useful, but also sometimes can be dangerous if not done properly.
True.
So we taught them about seat belts and speed limits and warning labels. So I think what we as parents need to do is create the digital version of these seat belts and warning labels. That is where we are struggling. We've not been able to crack that.
Yeah. And really educate them.
Yeah.
That brings me to my other question, which is about online safety. That has become a big concern. But we as parents, I think, don't know enough yet on how to educate kids around that.
Yeah.
And protect them from this virtual danger, basically, I would say.
Yeah.
How do you see that parents are able to tackle with it, or what do you think parents should be doing to kind of, handle this situation?
I think it's important to talk and to build trust and to build a relationship. As children grow, there are phases where as they enter teenage, they don't want to share everything. We did it with our parents. They will do it too. You have to go with the assumption that they're never sharing 100% with you.
True.
So what can you do? You can give them alternative sources. What is it that is going to spark their curiosity?
Yeah.
So I make it a point that I give them books that tell them about their body, their own hormonal changes, their own interactions with their peer group as they grow up. And I insist that they read those things.
True.
Because they will look for answers. True. And they might as well get those answers from a good source. That is one. The second is that as parents, we need to try and tell them that you will make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. But do know that however big your mistake is, you can come and tell me.
Yes.
I will help you.
Yes.
I might scold you, but I will still help you.
Yeah.
I think that is very important because then they know that if I'm in trouble, they've got my back.
Yeah.
So those are I think it's important to talk and build that. And while we like to believe that we are cool parents and we are parents are not friends. Parents are parents.
Parents are parents.
You can be friendly. You can have fewer boundaries. You can be more chilled about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the children should know that there will be a point where I will pull rank. And then you will have to do what I'm telling you as long as I can have exercise that authority. So I think it's important to slowly evolve that relationship where things are clear.
Absolutely. I think creating that kind of understanding since beginning and at the right age with right kind of boundaries it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Do you have any limited or defined screen time for kids?
When we started off, I was in the favor of no screen time. And we've had a lot of debates and discussions on why they need to watch something while eating. But this is the world we live in. And so I'm not always feeding them. So whoever is feeding them is doing it in the way that they deem fit. And so I have to let go.
Yeah.
And so there was screen time. We do try to regulate it. But I'm generally not a fan of regulation because I don't like authority beyond a point.
Yeah.
I like to make decisions for myself. And
Yeah.
I think the more you push someone and the more you set
Hmm.
boundaries, the more they are likely to rebel.
Yes.
So I would much rather it came from them. We have, limited the number of hours they should be on one device,
Yeah.
but they are very good at
Negotiating.
or just finding a loophole and doing
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
And then, to their credit, they do tell us later that, you didn't figure out. You said no more phone, but I had that WhatsApp group on my laptop. So
Yeah.
I was anyway chatting with my friend.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I think you have to give them some wins. We try to regulate, but I think it's a losing proposition.
True.
I think we have to educate.
Also, there have been instances like a few months back, there was a news when a 13-year-old ended up killing her own mother because she was not given access to her phone. And we even had news where, children committed suicide over video games and all that. Where do you think we are going wrong? Should there be a stronger law or some sort of control over such a situation? What can be done?
I think policy intervention
Mm-hmm.
may help, but only so much. So, we keep doing these reports. A few days back, there was a headline from Australia that the Prime Minister, the government is looking at restricting or banning children from social media. Russia is trying to do that. France,
In Sweden also,
Denmark,
they have
yes.
banned it under the year of
1 in 4
Yeah.
4 countries ban phones in schools the world over. But there is no research, there is no evidence that any of these bans really work. I think where policy can help is force the tech companies to make that space safer for children.
Absolutely.
Right? We cannot not send the child out to play
True.
In the physical world. But if we are living in a society, we can tell them to have rumble strips so that nobody is overspeeding. When kids are out, we can make sure that there are guards around, that there are CCTV cameras. If we can do that in the physical world, we have to be able to find parallels in the digital world. Tech companies don't do that. You've given two very powerful examples. Earlier this year, some 60 parents in the US filed a lawsuit against Meta because Meta and Snapchat, I think, because their kids had bought drugs off these platforms. Some of them had overdosed and some even died. And how does this happen? There are millions of images. I think last year was a record, some 36 million images of child pornography available on the internet on all of these platforms. So these companies have to do more. Governments have to force them to make it easier. They will not do it on their own because screen time is their revenue model. I mean, Snapchat makes what, 98% of their revenue
But
by
some sort of age restriction
display
and all
ads.
is very, very important.
They say
as
that they
well.
they say that they are I think fitness videos will be limited according to YouTube now, so they will not suggest it for teenagers. But first of all, it'll work if you are giving your right age. Second, how are you going to enforce it? It's a very, very complicated. I mean, if they can crack it, great. But I'm saying that there are some low-hanging fruits that should be, and that in terms of policy, we should push. On my show, we've always said that tech companies are like the British colonizers. I mean, they say that there was slavery, they say there was loot, but they will not say sorry or they will not try to fix it.
Yeah.
We have to force them to do that.
There's one of the very popular game right now. I wouldn't name it, but I see most of the kids are playing that game from a very young age.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the game, it's like a maze. There are so many little games inside. Children can choose which game they want to join in. They can ask their friends, family, and everybody join in the same game. Now, it looks very safe, but there's like constant chatting which is happening, and you're sometimes ended up playing with strangers, and there are all sort of dangers I feel behind that game. And even there was a article recently how this game could be very dangerous for children because they think they're playing with kids, but they could be some predators. They could be, people who are kind of there had been instances where they kind of convinced kids to do certain things just by becoming their game friend. So these kind of dangers are there. So why not also come up with some sort of policy around apps for children or games? Because I think that is something which is still missing.
Yeah, I think that can be a solution.
Yeah.
I think it has like I think we both agree on this that solutions have to come from all quarters.
True.
Educating children is very important, but then you don't teach them how to drive when they're 4. You do
Yeah.
it when they're 16.
Exactly.
So you don't give them a car when they're 4 years old. So you have to do it according to their age. And yes, policy interventions. So the problem, I think, Priyanka, is that technology is racing at a very high speed.
And it's hard to
And
catch up.
policy is far behind.
Yeah.
And this is not limited to what children are consuming on social media or the internet. It is AI, it is the technologies that are coming in various other aspects of our life.
Yeah.
Governments the world over are just playing catch up and trying to figure out what could be the repercussions. So I think this is a global challenge.
Yeah.
But it'll have to be addressed sooner rather than later because it's affecting an entire generation.
So almost 35% of the parents are not aware of the aspects of online safety. As you said, parents have to educate themselves first before they can educate their children, right? So how do you think parents can go about it and how they can tackle this situation?
I think the basic rules are the same. When we tell our children when they go out to play in the park, don't talk to strangers, don't eat something that someone gives you if you don't know them.
Yes.
Right? We tell them the same things. Don't go to someone's house unless you've told me.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same rules, but in a different space.
Sure.
With the games that you mentioned, so that there are online games and offline games. It's important to encourage children to, if they must be playing, and they do play, most of them, because in the cities that we live in, I'm not sure how great it is to send them out to play because given the
another problem, pollution.
Yeah. So if they are playing indoors, then they play with their classmates. It's important to monitor without appearing to monitor and to talk. True. Because children want to tell. When they come back home from school, which I don't see very often happening because I'm never there. But when I'm there, I see that they're bubbling with energy and excitement and they want to tell you, you know what happened today?
Yeah.
This person said this. Yeah. So if you encourage that, someone has to do it. Sure. When I'm not there, their grandparents are talking to them. Yeah. They know what's happening. I know who are my children's friends. I know what their families are like. I know their parents. Yes. I may not talk to them all the time, but I'm aware of what's happening. And they don't see it as meddling or interference or oversight in a way that stifles their freedom. They just think that I'm interested in their life, which I am. Yeah. We have to extend that to the digital world. And you said it yourself, that we have to educate ourselves. We don't know about all the games. Yeah. I don't know about all the platforms. Yeah. My husband's better acquainted to this. And then I have cousins who know this. I'm always asking for advice. So I think it's an iterative process. True. There is no winning formula that anyone has cracked. But that's the thing about parenting in general. There is no winning formula.
You're constantly learning yourself.
And two children are very different. Yeah. So you can't apply the rules of one person to another. So I think that's our best bet at the moment, to constantly engage, to understand them, to see what is affecting them, what is exciting them, and to understand why.
Do your kids use social media?
They don't have accounts on social media. But some of their friends do. Yeah. And with my children, it's complicated also because we are in the public domain. Yes. And there is a lot of hate and a lot of negativity and a lot of trolling. And I don't want them to suffer on my account. So when I did not know this well enough, initially I used to put their photos. Yeah. There are pictures of my daughter. Yeah. So my son sometimes says that, why am I not famous? And, she's on Google and I'm not. Because I think along the way I realized that it's not a great idea. There is identity theft. There is all sorts of things that are happening there. True. It's the wild, wild west, really. So no, they don't have accounts, but at some point they will. Yes. And at that time, they will have to learn that they already know that their parents are public individuals. And some of it rubs off on them. Yeah. So
be mindful.
That's part of the deal that they've got.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have to, they have they have cousins who have Instagram accounts, for instance,
Yeah.
for making. My son was very interested in, the kids have these unboxing videos and, playing games. And he said, I can
Yes.
do it.
The YouTube channels
And
as well.
yes, and he's very comfortable in front of the camera.
Okay.
So he could have done it,
Yeah.
but we discouraged it. We said, you don't need a YouTube channel. You don't need that validation from someone you don't even know, and that the pressure that comes with it. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a pressure that adults face.
Yes.
That I have only this many views on this one, and
Mhm.
not enough
Mhm.
reactions, and not enough likes, and it creates a lot of
Yeah.
mental pressure
Mental
for
pressure,
grown-ups. Imagine a child having to suffer that.
Yeah.
So we actively discouraged him, and we said that you don't need it.
Yeah.
And if you've done something great, and if you made a video, you have a very big family.
Yeah.
We'll watch it, and we'll tell you
Yeah.
what you can do better.
Yeah.
So there we had to, and he sort of agreed. It was not a very difficult conversation.
We as parents also, we very frequently tend to share our pictures.
Hmm.
It's part of our lives
Yeah.
now. And we also tend to share pictures of our children. Many think it's not the right thing to do because we don't have the consent from kids and they're very young. They don't know what that you're making their faces public, or
Yeah.
they might not like it when they grow up.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, should parents be sharing their beautiful moments with the world or posting online, or it's a tough call, I
It's
feel.
a very tough call. Very honestly, the consent part is not something that bothers me very much. I mean, since they're my children, I assume that until they are adults, the
Yeah.
consent is assumed. And I'm sorry, but I'm not giving them that. But we've all grown up feeling embarrassed about the pictures that sometimes our parents, my mother had this big poster-sized photo of me, which I hated. And I'm like, take it off. And she said, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it one bit. And it took me years to tell her that this does not have to be on your wall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do find things that our parents do as embarrassing. So I'm sure I should not deprive my children of that. If they find some things about me embarrassing, so be it. But otherwise, yes, like I said, the world is changing. If tomorrow your university is going to screen you on the basis of what you were as a child, or build a profile of what you are as an individual and how you've evolved, it may be problematic. I don't know.
And I think it's an unforeseen danger or something we are not aware of right now. We don't know how it's going to turn out to be down the line.
I think identity theft is the big worry. And for me, I don't share because all sorts of people write all sorts of things. I don't want, and it affects children very much.
Yeah.
So.
And now they can go online and check it out.
Yes, they can. They can.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I also sometimes, I would want to post and share those beautiful moments. But sometimes, it fills me with regret as well, right? Is it the right thing I'm doing? And should I be more protective for my children? Should I share? Should I not share? It's just confusing at times. Have you set any age in your mind which you think would be the right time for your kids to start using social media?
No. I did not have an age in mind for my kids to have a phone. It just happened. They said, lend it to me for a bit, and then maybe you can spare a phone that is only for us, but for 1 hour because we have to check homework. And so one thing led to the other, and they have a phone. So, but it's a phone that so far we've made sure that they share so that they can both keep a check on each other and see what's going on and not use too much of. So, no, I don't think that, I'm guessing 16 would be a fair ask, but we are still a few years away. So I don't know how much I'll be able to prevail on that front. No, but I just hope that whenever they do, they don't start with. Social media puts a lot of pressure, especially on girls. And my older child is a girl. Social media leads to eating disorders, mental pressures, body image issues. So many girls have that. Even when they don't have a social media account, what they see around them. We had this whole Barbie experience, by the way, where I made sure that she does not have a doll for the first 2 years because I thought that was very stereotypical. And, a new mom trying to redraw the rules. And I did not give her a doll at all. And I said, no, she should have buses and she should have construction, the Lego sets. And then when she was 2, a friend of mine gifted her a doll and she was inseparable.
Yeah.
And so my mom said that this is not conditioning. It is coming
No,
from
it's
you.
a natural.
You can't take it to the other extreme as well.
No.
And that was quite a lesson for me. That they will do what they want. Their natural selves will express and
Absolutely.
show, irrespective of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you can only be a part of the journey and make it more pleasurable for them and
Yeah.
memorable. So I just hope that by the time they do open their own accounts, they have the right understanding of what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what do they need it for? What do we need it for? But yeah, well, we have it. So no,
At
I
some
don't.
point,
I
I
don't
think.
have a prescription for anyone on when a child should have a social media account.
Fair enough. And so I was recently watching one of your interviews where you mentioned that when you were leaving for Israel, your son said, "Mom, are you going to get bombed?"
Yeah.
What were the maternal feelings at that time? How you felt? And how did you explain this to him as a mother, not as a journalist?
Very honestly, I did not think I was going to get bombed.
No, of course.
Right? So I knew that I was going to do some work, and it was a very important event that I wanted to cover. And so I had to do it.
Yes.
So, and I do travel a lot. There are times when I feel guilty. Like the day I went to Ukraine was my daughter's birthday. And I had to leave in the evening. Those are the times when you feel bad that you're not there. But long ago, I learned to tell myself that it's important to do the things that are very important to you.
Yes.
And over a period of time, the people who really love you will learn to appreciate it. And so at that particular moment, I told him that I will not get bombed. And his immediate response was, okay, then have a good time. And let me go off to sleep. And I put him off to sleep. So I knew that I was coming back, and that I'm not abandoning my children. And I'm yeah. So there are times when you do things which may seem like unnecessary risks that you're taking.
Yeah.
I think later I figured that I think my daughter was too stressed about it because she was. Usually when I travel, it's hard to get kids to talk on the phone. You know, they're very distracted.
Oh, yes. Very tough.
But that was a tour when she was calling me 2 to 3 times a day to ask, where are you? And that was a manifestation of her stress.
Yeah.
And that did make me feel bad that she does not have to go through this.
Yeah.
But other than that, and I'm a big believer in sharing your life with your children.
Yes.
You know, there are people who say that work is in office, home. When I'm in office, I think my team may not like the many stories of my children that I share with them.
Yeah.
But I do because I want to tell them that I am a mom. And I'm a mom even when I'm in office.
True.
I am my children's mother and I think about them. So it's okay to talk about them.
True.
It should not be a taboo to bring up children or home in your workspace. That does not make you less of a professional.
True.
Similarly, when I'm at home and if there's something that's bothering me and I'm talking to someone, and if my daughter is listening or my son is listening and we are having a discussion, that is fine because they're just picking up things. I mean, if it's not inappropriate, then it's okay for children to be a part of your journey. When I left one channel, set up something else, started working on the team, they were coming up with ideas on what I should do differently. They are part of my journey and my life.
Totally.
And I like that collaboration.
Absolutely. I mean, I see my daughter. She's been part of my brand since beginning. She was the inspiration that I started Maate, right?
Yeah.
And she used to love coming to office with me. And she's always so full of ideas.
Yeah.
Mom, you should launch this product, or you should do this next, or maybe this is the kind of marketing you should do.
Yeah.
So, and they really amaze you, the kind of ideas they can come up with.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So I know what you mean. And I think it's a beautiful feeling to have children involved in your day-to-day life. And it's very important as well.
For them to appreciate what you do outside of home and why it's important to you.
Yes, and they know you better. Like eventually it's the work which is taking majority of your time, right, in a day. And you can't keep it like separated, it's very hard, I feel. So, Palki, we have discussed so many things. We have spoken about the global crisis, the world we live in, the unpredictable future, the technology, the exposure our children have. So, is there one piece of advice or any takeaways you have for the parents who are listening to us today?
With the caveat that I'm not a perfect parent, and this is not professional advice. This is from my own experience. I think it's very important to show your children that you love them and how much you love them, and you can't do enough of it.
Sure.
If you come from if your approach is honest,
Yeah.
if you show them your strengths and your weaknesses, if you tell them that this is what is possible, this cannot be done, they will understand.
Yeah.
And parenting is a bit of a roller coaster. It's not the same. For a 5-year-old, it's different. For a 10-year-old, it's different. I'm being told that I'm yet to see the best and the worst of it with the teenage, where as one friend said, that your focus should be to just save the relationship.
Yeah.
That's just keep that bond on, and then they'll come back to you. So they will, but I think it's just important to show your children who you are as individuals and what they mean to you.
Yeah.
And the rest will all fall into place.
So moving on to the next segment, we have a community Q&A where we ask our listeners if they have a question for our next guest. And today we have a question for you from Diksha. And she's asking, as a parent, I'm always concerned about the kind of content my child consumes online, especially with so much misinformation around. How do you think we as parents can ensure that our kids are getting accurate information and not falling into the trap of fake news or harmful content?
This has happened to me. My son watched a video. He told me that Hitler was not killed and that he ran away. It's a conspiracy that is often propagated. And I said, who told you this? And he said, I watched something. And then he showed it to me. So I said, okay, this is very interesting. Instead of saying that, no, this is false, I said, let's go about looking at other things. And so we read a whole lot of, and we watched videos, and we watched some documentaries and read some other things that other people had said, which were more factually correct. But we turned it into a journey of exploration to really find out what the truth was. And towards the end, I asked him, what do you think happened? And so the answer has to come to him. If he's asking me, I will tell him. But if he has come to me with this assertion that this is what happened, then I have to give him alternatives which are more credible. So instead of saying that, no, this is wrong and don't watch it again, what will happen is he'll not tell me the next time.
Absolutely.
So I said, okay, this is quite interesting, but let's also do something else. So it has
Help
to
them
be
navigate through it and find the right.
I think that's one approach that may work.
No, I'm for sure. I think if you're involving them and if you're really helping them to find the answers for them, that works better in a longer run rather than just simply cutting it off. All right, so we had some really heavy topics and subjects we talked about, and now moving on to a fun segment where we will play a little game. So today's game, we call it Click Smart. And I'll give you a series of real life scenarios that parents often face when it comes to their kids and technology. Each question will have 3 options, and you have to choose the safest and the smartest approach. So question number 1, your child wants to join a social media platform. What's the best approach to keep them safe? Option A, allow them to join but monitor their activity regularly. B, make their account private and teach them about safe online behavior. C, don't allow them to join until they are 18.
A.
Yeah.
Monitor their activity. I guess. I mean, if it's on social media, you can anyway see what's happening.
Yeah, what they're posting. Your child wants to watch videos online. What's the safest way to allow this? A, let them browse YouTube freely, but check their history later. Stalk them. B, use a kid's version of the app with parental control, which is very tough, I feel. I don't know how it's been for you. Option C, sit next to them and watch every video together. I think the right option is missing here.
I'll take option 4, which I'll help you with. Option 4 would be to put some parental controls. Tell them what is the age limit that they should be watching. And if they really want to watch something which is beyond their age limit, it is open to negotiation. So they will at least tell you that this is what I want to watch, maybe.
Absolutely. Your child has a new online friend from a game they play regularly, the concern I had earlier. What's the safest next step? A, let them chat freely but remind them to be polite. B, ask your child for their friend's details to make sure they're real. C, explain the danger of online strangers and monitor the interaction closely.
I would go with C.
Yes. Likewise. Question number 4, your child is playing a game on their tablet and an in-game purchase pop-up appears. What's the safest way to deal with this? A, tell them to ignore it and keep playing. B, turn off in-app purchases and enable parental control. C, let them buy something small to keep them engaged.
I give them budgets.
I was just going to say the same.
Yeah. When I take them to Hamleys, I say that this is your budget. So they just have to, I mean, my son once very loudly said, "Are we poor? Why is my budget so small?" But I think it's important to understand
the value of money.
So no, you're playing this game and there was never a deal that you're going to be buying something. So no, you're not buying it.
For me, it's also been a complete no-no. I like online purchases because there's just simply no limit to it. So that is not happening. So I think need to be very strict around that. Question number 5, your child is begging for their smartphone. What's the safest approach? A, give them a phone with no internet access for emergencies. B, get them a regular smartphone, but install safety apps and get screen time limits. C, let them borrow your phone until they prove they're ready.
It depends on how old your child is. But for my children, I will go with number 2, that there are parental controls, which they know how to flout. But there are also, for them to go to a new app, they need some permits. So at least it shows on my phone what they're trying to do. And they know. So it's a very transparent process for both sides.
So Palki, thank you so much for joining me today. I truly enjoyed this conversation and I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time. So I'm so glad that you could make it today.
Yeah, so am I. I really enjoyed talking to you and all the issues that you're talking about are very, very important. More parents should be focusing on this and I'm glad that you've started this conversation. It's going to help a lot of people.
Thank you so much. And just to appreciate your time and your effort to have this conversation with us, I just have a little hamper for you from Maate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.